Hello, folks. So glad to be here. This is a lot of fun. So excited that you could join me, and I'm so happy to be here at Big Rig. So, just a quick message, um, or rather, a little intro about myself. So, my name is Adrian Spire. I'm the head of community for Higher Logic. Quick intro about who Higher Logic is, in case the folks here don't know. Um, So Higher Logic is a suite of tools that provides hosted online communities and other communication tools to engage members and customers at every stage of their journey. And we've been doing this for over 10 years. Today, we have over 3,000 customers: IBM, Qualtrics, Acer, HP, Broadcom, and our products touch more than 200 million users in 42 countries. So we have some experience with community, and we also know the importance it plays in customer success. So let's get going and talk about that today, because that's what we're here to talk about. First off, I would always like to talk about why community, for those community curious or skeptics on the value of community. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you've ever done if you've done a case study, but it always becomes this thing where people are like, well, don't tell anyone what our numbers are. We got to keep it secret. Our competitors can't know. So, I had some thought about that. I said, you know what, I can share numbers. I just can't tell you who the customers are. So these are just some of the values or the things that people are getting out of community. $20 million in support savings, time to solution under 60 minutes, renewal sizes that are larger deal sizes, online reviews that are being driven from the community. And by the way, most of them were positive, which is always a good thing. Increase in advocacy activities. I mean, who doesn't love that? Plus, of course, the almighty Google getting much more traffic and page views. So the question ends up becoming, how do we unlock such value? And the way I decided to break it out for this audience is kind of look at the customer journey. And the way we want to break it is into 4 buckets: land, onboard, adopt, and renewal. And what we're going to do today is go through each one, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks and some data as well for yourself to know about how you can build long-term value across the full customer journey. And certainly I'm open to questions at the end of each section as well, so we have the opportunity to have that conversation. So let's talk about land. So this is obviously how people discover you. And we've done some research, and actually this is not only our research, but the research that's out there as well, TSIA, our own research, that over 90% of people are finding you via Google or any search engine, but specifically Google. And that's either for support or doing research on you, your brand, or some research regarding anything with your services. And this isn't tickets, and this isn't Slack. There's a lot of people that say, oh, well, we've got a ticketing system or we've got Slack, but those things don't appear in search, nor does your Google, nor does your Facebook group. And as you can see as well, 88% of people we surveyed felt better about brands offering a space where people can have a opportunity to connect and speak with one another. And they also look at how you respond to customers as well. So not only is it the importance of having that space so that people can come and have those conversations, but how you're responding and interacting in that way. And in many ways, community is the first interaction with your brand. So customers will be asking if you are providing value outside of the software, and providing value to a customer before their customer can also be a game changer. They already have a positive view stepping through the door. And that's really what you want to be providing. So the community is your biggest billboard, as well as your company's welcome mat. And the example I've always loved is this one here that I'd love to show from one of our customers. As you can see, is that if you do a search on anything related to Acer, any question that you're looking for, you're going to come across their community. And if you notice something that's really interesting, is their community actually shows up ahead of their website. So the community is right up there. So if someone was doing research or trying to look for something, oh, big surprise, right? You're going to end up seeing that Acer information and going into there and having that conversation. So it's really important to think about not only the temperament of the conversations that you're having, but also creating a space so that people can come in and have those conversations and consider that. I don't know if there's any questions. I'll just check quickly. There aren't any, but please don't be shy if you have any about the land. Now let's jump into the second thing that we want to think about, which is onboard and implementation. where a customer is learning about your product and trying to get comfortable and trying to move their way and get really deep into your product. So community is an important learning avenue, and you can consider it a level one support channel. It's really the place that people are going to come in and start to kind of learn about your product and kind of start to make a bit of a networking. And the other thing that's really interesting is we've done a lot of research around this, and a majority of people prefer self-support. And I'm not really surprised about that. It's really an expectation based on stats by your customers and even myself. Like recently, I had to cancel the Globe and Mail, which is a newspaper up here in Canada that I'm located in, and it was really difficult. I was like online, I was trying to figure it, and at the end, I had to like literally call someone, which I mean, it's so old school to have to do. I really don't want to have to call someone. I want to be able to do it online. I know that's probably a tactic to kind of reduce the number of people canceling, but people are kind of expecting the opportunity to be able to do it online and also to be an option. And they review or look at companies that do that as a best in class company. And the key in this phase, really, of onboarding and implementation, I'm sure I'm not telling anything surprising to some of you professional community or customer success individuals, is that it's about reducing friction and creating a seamless experience so people can just get started and they can create connections and bonds. So what we do, for example, at Higher Logic, I have customer calls that I do biweekly, so they have an opportunity to connect with other people that are using the product, and I pair them up in a way with people that are brand new and people that have been using the service a long time. So they have an opportunity to make those connections, and they start to connect with one another on LinkedIn, and as well they swarm and help one another on the community when people are asking questions. This is a critical juncture for customers, when they're trying to learn and onboard and understand your product. And the biggest mistake I see people do is they just send a whole bunch of links to people, which is not at all what you want to be doing, right? You need to give them resources that make sense and opportunities to connect and go a little bit deeper. And community is not just, doesn't end and start with a forum. It's everything that goes around it. It has to do with events and talking points and, user groups and things of this nature. And that's why the time to reduce that friction is on the self-service resources as well. And also placing the community at the center and having that opportunity for people to come in and have those conversations and connect. And it's also important to have clear messaging on why would they go to the community and what value it can provide. It's really important that the value proposition is made extremely clear to them and what they can expect to get out of there. And as an example, TeamViewer, which is one of our customers, has 2.5 billion installations of their software. So 2.5 billion, think about that. And they have 600,000 subscribers. But when they started to implement community, they saw a 75% decrease in time to answer and a 96% faster rate of answering using the community, which you can imagine that allows their support team to then focus on the more critical, business critical points that they need to look at. And this is really the goal, right? It's to make it as seamless as possible, make the onboarding experience simple and easy, and get answers to reduce frustration, especially in a support context where we see a lot of the B2B SaaS and other companies that are focused on offering products and services. So in the next slide, I love this example from F-Secure, who on the front page of their community kind of gives the opportunity for people to offer their help. So as you can see, it say, hey, can you help? And then there's the recently accepted answer. So you can have the opportunity to come in there and help people, which, if you, as you're starting to learn your way, certainly an opportunity to come in there, maybe say, hey, you know what, I'm new, but I can answer this question. And then, if you're brand new and don't know the answers, you can kind of browse and lurk and kind of see the recently accepted answers and kind of see if there's stuff in there that's of interest to you. What I also like about F-Secure is they use KCS. And for those that don't know what that means, that's knowledge-centered support. So they're ensuring that 90% of any question that comes in are answered with a linked article within 90 minutes. And their team has bought in to make sure that every question has an answer. And that's crucial as well, that buy-in. So I think of another customer called Xometry, who changed the focus on support. They've actually placed an SLA right on the website to get an answer within 2 hours. And what they told me is the benefit is some of the customers now are jumping in even before their team, and they've been able to reduce the repetition of the questions that are coming in to make them much more effective and efficient. So I'm just going to jump here into the third area. But before I do, there seems to be some questions. So I'm happily going to take a look at that. So here we go. And I'll just read you the questions because you can't see them. So can you describe how you provide community operationally? Is that some kind of in-app forum? What are some low-cost ways to provide this kind of forum? So that's from Aaron. So Aaron, there's a lot of different ways. I work at a SaaS company that offers it as a subscription through a SaaS model so that you just have a monthly subscription. We take care of all the hosting and all that stuff. And that's, kind of the way that a lot of companies do it. It's kind of to blend in with your tool and just make it a seamless experience. So hopefully that answers your question. And then the next question we have here is it okay to send links to people after you have a call? Example, in the call, you model and review, then provide resources to links, community, and videos to support them in updating. If not, what do you suggest instead? So I really recommend that, you can absolutely send links. Well, I guess what my concern is that people automate it too much and they become kind of sending just an email with all kinds of links. If you're having a conversation with someone, that's fine. I think the point is that you want to say, hey, here's where you can get some resources and here's how you can get some help. And we're also here to help you to have that conversation as well. But what I've seen be really powerful is also connecting people in the community so that they can build those relationships and also start to help one another as well. So hopefully that answered your question. The next question we have here is, how do you drive traffic to the community so they can engage, or what are some things to promote, encourage their participation? I'm actually going to get to that in the next slide, but the short answer is it's about creating content programs and making sure that you're providing value. The biggest mistake that people make is when they're creating community, they don't think of what are the problems or things that people are trying to solve for, and then creating paths and content towards it. And I'm actually going to show it to you in Adopt and Grow because that's actually an essential part of that. And then there's a final question, but I will get to that at the end. So let's jump into Adopt and Grow, and please, don't be shy if you have questions. I'll certainly get to them at the end of this next phase. So we've got people onboarded and implemented, and we want them to now adopt and grow with the product. So how do we go about that? So community and KB are absolutely crucial, important learning avenues. And what we also found is convenience being the #1 factor that people have told us. It's also important to know that people want to connect with others, and seeing others being successful helps build their confidence. So there's no better way for customers to learn than from their peers. And peer-to-peer sharing is actually the #1 thing that we like to see in community. And it's also true that people tend to trust one another before they trust a brand. I don't know about you, but if someone tells me about something that I trust and recognize as an expert, I'm more likely to take it than any marketing message that I'm going to see. And I'm sure I'm not telling anyone here any secrets to say that scaling customer success is already hard enough, and your CSMs are probably bogged down. So leveraging the community as a place where they can get value and emphasize that they can make those connections, it should go hand in hand. It's not to offshoot people to the community and say you don't want to work with them. It's to say, hey, this is an extra, something to add value, something to provide, you as you're working out loud or, in between the calls. And not only that, it's also great for the CSM team to see what customers are up to and learning. I'll get into some of that in a little bit later, but there's a lot of value, not only for your customers, but also for your own CSM team in terms of growing. But, the key aspect of value realization is that they're going to get best practices within the community, and they're going to have an opportunity for networking and building these great, connections, which we've also seen that there's a correlation between people having a great experience and, customer effort score and NPS. So some of the examples that I've seen, we have a customer, TomTom, which is actually really interesting. Their #1 reason that people joined that community was they cited a sense of belonging, which is really interesting. You would think it was, to solve problems or what have you, but what they wanted to do was connect with other people that were really intrigued and fascinated about navigation. Then we have another customer, Acer, who really focuses on obviously the computers And they've got their ACEs program where they have 21 ACEs who are bought in and they're answering questions. One guy actually answers 17,000 questions, and he just does it out of his pure joy of wanting to help people. Certainly, they have some perks within the program, but they were able to uncover and find these people. And the way that they did that is they start off slowly with commitments in terms of, hey, can you help answer these questions? And they moved along and they recognized them in the community with badges and access to product, and really valued the feedback and kind of brought them in that. Xometry is one that I mentioned just before. So they have 65% of support deflection, and they're doing much more with less. So they actually haven't had to hire more people as they've seen the number of tickets come in, and they connected their knowledge base with their community, and they've gone from their 48 hours to under 5 minutes for people getting a resolution because they've been able to find their answers so quickly. And innovation within the community also happens when people start sharing with one another. So this customer that I was just talking about, Xometry, has released several new products in 2 different verticals, and this has all come out of the community. So people just love the opportunity to share and learn how they can make things better. And to answer the question that was before about, how do we get people engaged and how do we take a look at this? This is an example of Qualtrics aiding people on their journey. And if you notice at the top, it's very specialized. You can see how they're very user-centric in the paths of what they want people to do. If you go in, hey, I'm new to community, or I can't log in, or I just want to browse, or I want to earn swag, they're kind of, deciding on the paths. And what's great about them is obviously they're a customer experience company, so they've done a lot of research in the different paths, and they've centered on to making sure that people can find what they're looking for. And also they implemented a voice of customer program with ideation through the community, and they saw a 1,000% increase in satisfaction and feedback, which means the customers just felt heard, and it was much easier to give feedback to the company. So, there's a lot of different ways that community can have an impact on, people adopting and growing with the platform. Now, before I jump into the almighty renewal, which is really everything that every company gets concerned about in the SaaS business, especially, I'm just going to look at the questions here and make sure that I've answered them. So the question was, how are you facilitating those connections within the community? So I mentioned it quickly, and I'll say it again. I do these bi-weekly community calls where I pair up brand new people with people that are experienced, and they have an opportunity to kind of talk and connect and chat with one another. You can also create paths within it where you're giving them content in a guided way, like cohorts along the way. So it makes it a lot easier for those connections to happen. I also keep a spreadsheet for myself of the people that join the community and things that I learn about them, so I can make connections and go, hey, at Paul, I use an at mention, say at Paul is an expert in this and he can help you. And I'm facilitating the connections. I'm being like a very good host at a party. I know it's kind of a very overused analogy, but that's really a community person's role, is going to be a lot of building those connections and being a super connector and saying, hey, this is someone that may be of interest to you, or this is someone local that could have an experience or expertise. And if you have anyone doing community in the right way, they're keeping track of that information in their CRM or some format to know, okay, this is someone who's experienced in this, or happy to connect, or happy to participate. Then there is the question here, I'm sorry to ask this, but are you describing communities related to individual products that they're subscribing to? Online communities looking for help regarding the product they're using? So each company has a community portal where customers can reach out for questions. So yes, I'm describing, for the most part, a company that would have either products and or services that people can subscribe to, but anything that requires any type of learning or onboarding or any type of connection is looking to do that. That's where community can be helpful. Community can be in any industry where there's any level of complexity that requires someone to talk and learn. I think a community can function. I've yet to run across an example where I don't think that there's a fit. Certainly the examples I'm giving today and the talk I'm giving is related to products and services, because that's an area that I'm familiar with and where we have a lot of success. And I really want to talk about what I know about rather than pretend. So hopefully that's helpful. There's a question here asking me about what app are you using to index that. I'm not sure if you're asking me about how I know the connections, I'm just as I learn things about people, I put notes into a spreadsheet. But everyone has different ways. Some people use a CRM, some people use Salesforce. A shared doc for me works best. So let's talk about the renewal phase, right? Because that's obviously what a lot of people care about when it comes to customers and making sure that they're happy and continuing to buy from them. So building community and peer-led conversations can help you to get important renewal that we have seen can have a major impact on sales, satisfaction, and loyalty from community. This is it's always hard to get people to put that on paper and publicly say it, but there are some customers that were willing to talk about it. So for example, Quicken saw a 30% increase in NPS. In unsolicited feedback, it saw a 30% increase in NPS, and also saw an increase in unsolicited feedback from 2% to almost 15%, which is fantastic. Flowcast saw a 26% increase in advocacy activities, which is feedback and reviews. BMC saw an order size that was 3.8x and renewal size 9.3x, and contract length was also significant increased. And we also saw a customer of ours, F-Secure, who saw 25% in associated community revenue. So those are customers that learned about new products that they weren't currently buying. So, create a positive experience by adding value and helping them get on board fast, a space to be heard, solve issues, and connect with others has been that secret mix to making sure that people are happy and finding the value in your community. And really what you should be focusing on is making sure that you're reinforcing that value to your customers, and often either by creating recurring programs. So, AMAs, connection with your product team, or one-off programs. Maybe it's, an event or something that you do seasonally where people can be reminded the community is there, and an opportunity to connect and make those, see the value. One of the ones I love to do is doing a yearly book where people share their best tips, and then you put it into a PDF document and it's shared back to the community. That's always a lot of fun. Right now, I'm also running a survey that has been generated by the community. So what I did is I said, hey, what are the questions that you want to know about the industry? And we collectively put together a survey, and now the survey has gone out to everyone to answer within the community, and then the results will be shared back to the community. So it's actually been quite successful. And then the other thing, finally, is getting your internal teams engaged early and often. This can be absolutely critical in making a difference because, there's going to be a lot of value across the various steps. Certainly, helping support reduce a lot of the very mundane questions, repetitive questions. And for the CSM team, there's a lot of value to, have a spot where they can get best best practices, not only for customers themselves, but also for the CSMs to learn. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there, and I've seen it been very successful in a lot of organizations. So as an example, I just wanted to show TeamViewer here, and they have dozens and dozens of products. And so using their community as a space for people to discover and learn new products has been very important for them. There's so many times that people go, oh, I wasn't using that product, and let me go explore. And then they kind of go down the rabbit hole and kind of learn about a different product. And as I mentioned, F-Secure is a similar company in the security space, and they've seen a 25% increase or 25% of the revenue last year was associated community revenue. So customers learned about new products that they weren't currently buying. So before I jump in, there seems to be a lot of questions, but before I run out of time, I just want to give you my 5 tips, and hopefully some of these answer some of the questions that come up. So the first and most important thing is that you want to invest in headcount for your community. Why? Because it's very important to recognize the community is a full-time job. There's a lot of times people make the mistake. They think it can be like the marketing manager does it as a side job. No, it does require full-time. Certainly you can do it part-time, for a short period, but at some point the investment will have to happen. The next thing that is really important, I talked a lot about support today, but it's really important that there's a success mindset, because we don't want support to be looked at in a transactional way. The thing is, it's about customers being successful, and that encompasses not only support, but much, much more than that. Next, we want to involve the community team as much as we can. So I call this the fifth beetle, because in the sense, the Beatles made great music, but George Martin, for those that don't know, was their engineer, and he did a lot of the stuff, especially early on when they weren't able to read music. He was able to help score out some of the orchestrate parts that they needed. So the way I see this is you want to involve the community team. They should be an important part of your success, even if they're not reporting into the success team, so that they're aware of what's going on and you have open communication so that the two teams can have that communication and know what's going on. And it can also be part of the process for your CSMs to learn about your own product and process. It's a great way for them to get up to speed, even spending some time supporting customers within the community. I've seen that also be very useful and a successful way where a new CSM will spend some time assisting the community, going in there, talking to customers, learning the things that they care about, and building up those rapports before they then take on the load of their own. And then finally, community is a great signal to see how your customers are feeling and interacting with your brand and seeing the things that matter. And it can help the CSM to do the job better because it can identify maybe an issue even before it becomes an issue on a call. It can also help create really great content for your marketing team that can help you be proactive and support your CSM organization. So there's a lot of different things in that aspect. So I would like to now jump to some of the questions that are here. Does community live in the CS org, or is it a standalone personal team? That is a great question and a matter of major debate. So this is only my personal opinion, or I can also base it on some data as well. So I'll put it in data terms and where I believe things are going. Right now, the majority of community teams are in marketing, although there has been a strong push in the space that customer success experience is now where community is living, although there is a significant majority of people having their own community team within organizations as well. But for the most part, it seems to be, the trend seems to be under the customer experience, customer success umbrella, because people are realizing that community is such an essential part of a customer success, as the numbers showed before, right? It's an expectation that people are going to have a space where they can connect and meet other customers, learn from one another. And there's also opportunities for the CS organization to get information and be better at their job as well. Next question. If conducting a virtual community event, how do you motivate people to attend and participate? That's a question from Christy. So Christy, it's about value. That's absolutely, you're here, right? Because you felt that this would be a valuable session for you. If you're not hitting the value, then it doesn't work. Now, the thing I can also say too, is that you have to be consistent and do it on a regular basis to make sure that people know and they find that out and they're able to come and enjoy it. Because if you try it once and it fails, you just need to continue at it and make sure that you're giving your best effort, because sometimes people give up too soon. But if you're hitting the things that people need to be successful, you'll find success. So there's a question here: is the customer success profession and the community tool, are they one and the same, or building community another tool that customer success can utilize to have happy customers? So community is not a tool; it's a practice, just like customer success, and they go hand in hand for success. So I would say community can be a platform, but it's also a discipline. There are community managers, there's institutes, there's certifications, there's a whole network of community builders that are out there. And the goals align very closely to the success organizations about wanting to make customers as successful as possible. So certainly something that you'd want to invest in and look into. I just want to make sure that I get to all the questions. There's so many great questions, and I do apologize that I'm probably not going to get to them all. So, what I would say is reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm not hard to find. My name's Adrian Spire. My email is aspire@hirologic.com. Happy to answer any questions, connect on LinkedIn or find me on Twitter. And it was a real pleasure. I wish I could have gotten to all the questions, but the recording will be available, I think, at a later date. And check it out. And thanks, everyone, for having me. Have a great day.